Oh, get ready, because it looks like people that donated millions of dollars to Donald Trump are going to be owning TikTok because Donald Trump just announced, get this, that within quote unquote 2 weeks, he loves this 2 weeks thing. It defies time and space on planet Earth. But in 2 weeks, a group of wealthy investors that Donald Trump has been brokering will try to acquire TikTok from the Chinese government. The question is not only what was the pay to play for these people to be able to own and have brokered by a US president a Chinese company so that they can own it, but who's going to own the algorithm, an algorithm that underlies the entire TikTok business of the parent company of ByteDance. That algorithm is listed on the Chinese database as which demonstrates that China controls the algorithm, which is why they've been weaponizing it against the United States. And another person that looks like they'll be slipping in at the last minute and getting a big stake in TikTok is Tucker Carlson. I'm Michael Popok with a TikTok update here on Legal AF. How'd we get here? Congress, not this one, the prior one, banned the Chinese government from continuing to own and control TikTok through its control of ByteDance. Why was that important? Because Congress made a finding supported by the United States Supreme Court that China has the ability to use TikTok and weaponize it against the American people. Why? Because they're not a capitalist country. They're a communist country. And ByteDance is ultimately controlled and can't make a move, can't wipe its butt without the approval of the Chinese Communist Party. The algorithm only exists with Chinese government permission, that at any time the Chinese government can go into TikTok and pull the servers and get your personal data that you've given to TikTok and all the videos and all the AI that can be used to mine those videos and their data and their metadata is now in the hands of the Chinese government, which then has, there's no barrier between Chinese military applications for artificial intelligence and for data like this, and it's civilian use. It's one and the same in China. So ByteDance could never make the promise that they could put up a barrier between itself and the Chinese government about America's data, which got the Congress all hot and bothered. They passed a law to ban TikTok unless China sold not only its controlling interest, but also the algorithm being controlled by a U.S. entity only. Donald Trump steps in. Originally, he favored the ban. Then friends of his who donated lots of money, who were investors in TikTok and in ByteDance, told him that's not good for business. Donald Trump got a quote unquote soft spot for TikTok because he thinks that's one of the things that helped win him the election. At least his son, Barron Trump, convinced him of that. And so Donald Trump, as soon as he gets in, and before he even gets in, starts to campaign and lobby on behalf of TikTok. He's already brokered one deal, right? The art of the deal, you and I as American citizens are now in business with Japanese, who Nippon has just bought U.S. steel out of Pittsburgh. And the U.S. government has a stake in control of how that's operated. Okay? So, do you ever want to be in the Japanese steel business? You are now under Donald Trump. Fast forward to TikTok. As I said, that would lay the blueprint for TikTok. Now, a group of investors who are all Trump investors and Trump donators are the group that looks like it's going to be the controlling buyer of TikTok. Now, J.D. Vance is allegedly in charge of the TikTok transaction, but it's Donald Trump saying, I have a big announcement in 2 weeks. A group of wealthy people, all Trump supporters who donated a lot of money to me, are going to be owning TikTok. That group includes Andreessen Horowitz, Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz, who have donated over $3 million to Donald Trump. Blackstone Group, Steve Schwartzman, who runs Blackstone Group out of New York, a huge private equity firm, loves Donald Trump, has given him millions of dollars, and so has Blackstone. Silver Lake, General Atlantic, Susquehanna, these are all private equity firms in America, KKR, all donated money to Donald Trump. And now they're on the receiving end because it looks like they're going to own up to 80%, so the controlling interest of a company. Whether Tucker Carlson, which Donald Trump apparently and J.D. Vance put on a list of potential buyers, and even though he denies it, whether he'll be rewarded for his steadfast propagandist support for Donald Trump, it remains to be seen. But I would not be surprised if in quote unquote 2 weeks, when Donald Trump announces the winner of the TikTok lottery, JD Vance's, Tucker Carlson's name is not on there. Now, the real question is, who gets the algorithm? That's where the rubber meets the road. That's the whole shooting match. It's the algorithm that runs the TikTok platform. It's the one that is watching you while you're watching TikTok, so to speak. It is currently controlled by the Chinese government. It's on the Chinese government's algorithm list. Can't be exported or sold without Chinese government approval. Now, the Chinese government, they floated this idea of an Andreessen, Horowitz, Blackstone, Silver Lake, Susquehanna, Tucker Carlson, that's a mouthful, ownership and control of TikTok to the Chinese government before. But Donald Trump was in the middle of waging a 150% tariff war against China, and they pushed away from the table. But now, because we're running out of time, Donald Trump just gave the third extension on TikTok, and now it's going to have to be a September 17th sale, or he's going to extend it again. There's no leverage here. He keeps trying to extend the time because he's trying to broker one of these big deals. Is this what we're okay with? Donald Trump as the president of the United States, who's already turned the White House into a tremendous pay-to-play, right? This is a kleptocracy in full view. Everything is pay-to-play. He goes to Dubai, he goes to the Arab Emirates, and he brings along an entire plane load of Fortune 20 executives, private equity to do investments. This is just, you wanted a business person with no political experience to be the president of the United States and one who was indicted and convicted. This is what you're going to get. So he's busy wasting time, our resources, and his finite amount of resources and mental capacity as a president to broker deals, private deals. You and I don't benefit from the TikTok sale to these private equity funds so that Steve Schwartzman can tell his investors, yeah, I invested $2.5 million or $5 million in Donald Trump. Look what we got. We got TikTok. That's the proper use, right? All of these people around Donald Trump have lost completely sight of what patriotism, public service means. Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary, can't wait to announce 10 big deals that he's going to be announcing. Like he's still working for Cantor Fitzgerald, his family-owned business, cutting deals. See, that doesn't work. What benefits the bottom line of a company and the ROI of a company and its investors is not the same as what benefits the American people. The American people. Your patriotic duty, your sworn duty as a confirmed member of the cabinet by the United States Senate to uphold the Constitution, and all you're focused on is art of the deal. How about art of the Social Security program? How about the art of the Medicare program, which this big, beautiful bill is about to decimate? What about that? And why do we want to be in business? Why do we want a president, doing this grubby retail politics of brokering a deal for TikTok to private investors, just as he did the sale of USX to Nippon? Why do we want our president doing that? I thought the goal of conservatism under Republican administrations was to get the government out of big business, let business run without government interference. I didn't realize it was to put the government in business against the private sector. That's what's happening. You think the other steel companies love the fact that the U.S. government took an ownership stake, a governance stake, the golden stake, the golden share with a competitor that's based in Japan? Is that a proper use of our resources? There is a role for the U.S. government in the economy. You got to have the U.S. in the U.S. economy. Monetary policy, fiscal policy, some private-public partnerships, I guess, can work. But by and large, you regulate capitalism. You set up a social safety net to connect the government to the people so that the people who aren't all owners of private equity firms and investment banks and brokerages and hedge funds and all the rest of the people, have I identified everybody that's in the cabinet for Donald Trump? That they can have dignity and fiscal stability and fiscal security in America. That's what we're looking for. You should be able to have a roof over your head, not worry about your medical, your healthcare, not worry about your education, and not worry about your food. Those are the basics. Education, healthcare, roof over your head, nutrition. You give that to everybody, people can make as much as they want. I'll give you an example, that final example. They keep saying that the tax base in this country, the tax rate, is so high that it's stopping investment and the stock market's improvement and everything. Is that what we're watching? The stock market just went up $10 trillion in the last month with the tax base the way it is. Doesn't that show that some people in this world, including in Donald Trump's cabinet, have so many billions of dollars that an extra point or two for taxes to go for the social safety net does not impact them, not a whit? They don't think about it. They don't go, well, I would invest here, but I just paid an extra point in taxes. They don't think of that at all. They pay very little in taxes because they have tremendous tax avoidance schemes. All of these companies that are going to own TikTok have tremendous tax avoidance schemes. So I'm going to continue to follow. The next thing I'm going to report on is TikTok's sale to major wealthy donors of Donald Trump. And I'm going to be focused on who owns the algorithm, because that is the issue. And what Donald Trump gives up in order to get China to approve this transaction right here on Legal AF. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popak. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.